Welcome, everyone. Doug DePeppe. I am an attorney, but I'm also a partner with IR Global with OnCall Cyber. Been with IR Global since 2017, I think. And I'm seeing a number of you that are familiar and some new people as well. So, what I want to start off with is invite anyone to raise your hand if you want to comment or ask a question during the presentation. Um, we hear that a lot. I'm quite serious about it because this particular topic, I recognize that all of us have insights in this space. If we were talking today exclusively about cybersecurity, data privacy, certain expertise that I'm very comfortable with, i.e., my vertical, um, I would be able to and be very comfortable um, speaking authoritatively, like as if I'm confident in what I'm speaking about, that I'm an expert. Whereas all of us have certain views about how we integrate with other professions, thinking horizontally. So I appreciate that IR Global has asked me to present on this topic and this week-long series. This is consistent with the basic topic, but I don't want to pretend to be the expert in the field of thinking horizontally rather than vertically. But I have practiced it, and I'm going to give you some of my thoughts. But again, at any point that you have a suggestion, or you want to clarify something, or you want to make a comment, I welcome the contribution. Okay, quite serious about that. So anyway, there's the topic. I'm going to define it a little bit so we have a better understanding of what this topic is. So this is the thesis, a transformational period, and there down below, it broadly under the characterization of digital transformation in my world, in the data field, with organizations adopting different technologies. Digital transformation is a common phrase, and there are different sub-elements to it. There's, of course, AI is all over the news. We're hearing about it all the time. Quantum is when I was teaching at a university in cybersecurity, a lot of the students wrote about quantum as something that was coming. Well, it's now virtually here, at least technologically, it's here. And we'll see commercially how quickly it starts to roll out. That's another game changer, quantum computing and the speed and the capacity that comes with that. Web3 blockchain are somewhat similar. Blockchain is a narrower focus in the broader category of Web3. And maybe the things that I'm mentioning right now are familiar, maybe they're foreign. I think AI, everyone is very familiar with, but this digital transformation is affecting each of our verticals. And what I'm going to talk about is how you may want to think about technology in your vertical. To get there are some obstacles, but principally they're mental obstacles. They are fear of technology. And it's interesting, we wouldn't be having this meeting in this manner, I don't know, 15 years ago, right? We wouldn't be meeting this way. And so that's just an example of how technology has transformed and enabled businesses like our Global to reach globally, connect, and have real-time meetings across the globe. But the topic here is we all can accept that we're in a digital transformation. How do we operate? How do we modify our practice in ways that make us more profitable, that in some respects, perhaps particularly with AI, that ensures our survival? I don't mean that in a medical physical sense, but can our practice, how much is AI going to replace our practice? And certain fields are at more risk than others. And not addressing it and not being nimble and not adapting there's risk to many practices because others will take advantage of it and will leap ahead of you. And I'll just give you a quick insight about me personally, because I have acquired certain competencies, certain reputations in the cybersecurity field. And I say that in a self-deprecating way in the following manner. In college, I was a political science major. So so social sciences, and I have worked my way into the technology field, into cybersecurity specifically from that background. So I am confident that some of the things I will share with you are a result of not being fearful of technology, embracing it, and figuring out how to leverage it and how to make yourself and your practice more useful, more valuable to your clients. Okay, so that's and Oliver, if while I'm speaking and looking at the slides and looking at the audience, if there's any hands that go up or please interrupt me. Okay, so there's some people will define brilliance as making complex things simple. So if you can simplify things, even though it's complex, that's really thinking about difficult projects and making it manageable, consumable. I rather than simplicity, I want to use the word clarity. Now, to get to clarity from AI or some of these other advanced technologies, what I would suggest is that first you get as many smart people around you, you attend as many events with smart people in the field, you read, and in that all those ways you are overcoming the fear of technology. When I say fear, I don't, it's not a palpable fear, but we all work in the bottom boat there. We all work in our comfort zones. And the key is to absorb as much information. And when I say clarity and find one thread, what I mean is if you study it enough, and by studying it, you are already engaged in a horizontal pursuit, right? You're getting out of your comfort zone, you're getting out of your vertical, and you are assessing something different, but you have your vertical filter. And the clarity, the one thread is what in this new field, this new technology, what's one piece that I can incorporate that fits with my practice, with my vertical? And to me, that's the starting point. And I'll give some examples in a minute, but navigating complexity, navigating technology, reading it with a scrutinizing eye to find that one piece that one golden nugget, as we call, right, that you can use in your practice. But meanwhile, be cataloging all the other things you learn. You may be looking for that one or two thing that you can use, but in the meantime, you are gathering information and resources and others that you can help you keep track of that. Keep a catalog. I'm seeing that I'm getting some comments, so I'll let's see, chat. Okay. Thank you. So the one question was about quantum. I'm not going to get into the details of the qubits, and I've read about it enough to know that speed and capacity is what will change. And 5G was that way a little bit too, right? That there's going to be greater speed, greater capacity, which presents a lot of risk. On the other hand, if you are in a syllogistic field, if this, then that, and certainly in the accounting field, there are a lot of fields where speed of correlation is useful. AI, quantum computing can come together. We're not at a point, though, we're adopting quantum is a practical sense, but starting to maybe read up on it a little bit and understand it could be useful. I think the key one right now, the two key ones are Web3 and AI, and AI is all over the place right now, right? I'll also mention that in my experience, I've spoken on AI a couple of times, even with our global, and I don't believe there are very many experts in AI. There are some, but it is a nascent field. A lot of the legal issues, the privacy issues, the employment risk, and even some who think, it's the end of the world is coming with AI, right? All of that is really not well known. And so it's important, I think, to form your own views and don't be intimidated by the supposed experts. There are very few real experts in the field of AI right now. So, all right. So this is sort of a framework for the approach of overcoming fear and getting involved in technology and looking for ways, find that one thread to use it effectively. There's a little bit of background noise there, I think. Let me give you an example of our journey OnCall Cyber. So many of you know that OnCall Cyber is a partnership that originated between two IR Global members, Brian Megan and myself. Brian is a M&A and corporate attorney and does other things. I was principally involved with cybersecurity and data privacy. We met, we kept in contact, really couldn't figure out. He's in Denver, I'm in Colorado Springs, so we're only 70 miles apart, 100 kilometers. Couldn't really figure out how we might work together, but we kept in contact. And then in the cyber field, with all the attacks that were occurring, I felt with another colleague that a cyber crisis team would be a useful solution for the market. With speed of attack, you don't have the time, you don't have the team is a phrase we use. And so we bundled an incident response team with an incident response attorney, a breach coach. And how it got back to Brian was Brian has a separate outsourced paralegal company. And since the model with OnCall is to envelop the investigation with work product privilege, with attorney-client, a form of attorney-client privilege, since paralegals are an extension of the legal practice, we ended up partnering with Brian's paralegal team to be our call center. So now when calls come in, it's all protected under privilege. And we offer that as a partner with IR Global so that we're talking to consultancies in IR Global that see that consultancies as well as accountancies that see that they need their customers, their clients are asking for compliance with data privacy, need to have a response when there's an incident. And so we're now partnering with and having conversations with different IR Global members on partnering. And that OnCall Cyber model combines legal, incident response, cyber insurance. I mentioned paralegal. So we've integrated different solutions from different verticals into one offering. But it took 3-4 years of connecting, networking, and then figuring out, oh, okay, this is what we can do together. And then the other partnerships are all the other through our global, as well as other vendors that have interest in partnering. So if I stayed as a data privacy attorney, that would be in one vertical. What we felt was a entrepreneurial approach and needed in the marketplace was to go look more horizontally, combine resources, and offer a compiled solution. So that's and now of course we're looking at the AI, like everyone's looking at AI. And on comfort zones, it's just something. Please reach out to us if what I just described, if there's something that you may want to talk about. We'd love to have that conversation. But it's this thinking outside the box and getting outside your comfort zone, getting outside your vertical, and integrating more solutions to be a more comprehensive shop. Okay, do I have any? Okay. All right, so some quick tips about building upon what I've talked about so far, both our experience and what the high level points of finding that one thread. Uh, I I think the key is starting out and embracing technology and researching it. Finding the time, right, which I recognize is difficult these days. But if you look at it as a threat to the business, of being the risk of becoming obsolete, of maintaining relevance to your customers, you've got to do that. So that's the horizontal piece, and then thinking through that within your vertical. Okay, I'm looking at AI. How can I use it? What's that one thread? Integrating within your vertical, but all during the process, this call, other events you engage in, outreach, that becomes your network. So, as mentioned, I didn't want to make this a long conversation. I wanted it to be a collaborative session. So I think with that, I'm going to go ahead and open it up to Q&A. And it's right on 20 minutes, so right on time.
Do we have any questions? I think that you might have to unmute yourself if you are on mute, which I presume you will be.
Stephen.
Yeah, hi, Doug. In my
Hey, Stephen.
experience with company crises of whatever kind, the ability of the CEO in uh, dealing with the public relations side of the crisis is very important. And in addition, the judgment side of whether the crisis is real, containable, or explosive. And I think that's where people come in, whether it's the CEO and advisors. I don't think that's something that AI can do in a crisis, because the one thing that we as advisors, trusted advisors, do is advise and give judgments. So I don't know if your group includes public relations people, or how you deal with the judgment side of a cyber crisis or any other crisis.
Yeah, so thanks, Stephen. The cyber crisis team approach is your first call, in order for privilege to apply and get the core ingredients. Beyond that, other resources are available through our connections that help with, including crisis communication, strategic communications. But to your broader point, uh, I completely agree. There's in one of the legal principles, right, in dealing with many um, incidents, crises, is business judgment. And uh, that's not something that AI is well tooled, notwithstanding a lot of claims, uh, well tooled to provide. So I agree with you. Um, I will also share that to use business judgment, the types of data and the sources of data that you look at, and whether so let's talk about a cyber attack I'm dealing with a lot these days. If the ransom attack, which commonly happens, they clear the logs. So the logs is a history of the connections. And as a result, you can't discover exactly which folders, how much data. Well, you can know how much, but what data has been stolen without knowing the data. You don't know whether personal information, privacy information has been taken. You might have a sense of the areas that were compromised, and from that you can sort of reverse engineer and discover what PII, personal identifiable information, has been taken, because you have a duty to investigate that, and if it's been taken to notify authorities potentially, and certainly consumers. But if you don't fully know what was taken, then it creates moral hazard, right, of the CEO or the incident, because they're thinking, well, it's almost is anybody going to find out? So the current ransom attacks now, after some period of time of demanding the extortion and negotiation, the threat actors will publish on the dark web, because they'll take the data and then they'll publish it, and they'll often also share it with authorities. And so there's this risk calculation that leadership has to go through, but there's known unknowns, of what exactly do they have. Will they, if we're not paying, are they going to continue spending time and resources to try to extort something when we've signaled that we're not going to pay? And so those kind of judgments and getting good advice, and we use I used, and you referenced the cyber, but it can be other areas as well, of having the seasoned experience to provide counsel, I think is essential, and having these partner networks, I think, is critical.
Christina, I'm not sure if you had a question.
I do, thank you. Thank you, Doug. It was interesting, as usual. But I have a question. This OnCall Cyber, do you work as well on a sort of a preventive stage with the customers, or because we're looking into that here with this, looking at a system in Europe to sort of be preventive in AML or attacks or whatever.
Yes, our model, and we're not in Europe yet, although we're interested in speaking about partnering. So happy to have that conversation, Christina, with you. But what we found was, to get into the market, there are a lot of cyber vendors that are selling compliance, both technical and policy support, law firms, and so on. But having a expertise and a quick response on the response side was our foot in the door, so to speak. Once, and what we think is the critical value proposition of our model, since it is a subscription, and the subscription affords cyber law advisory, right? There's a certain amount up front, and then most of it is reserved for the response if there's a need. But the client gets an opportunity to speak to counsel, and counsel, having a fiduciary relationship with the client. And the first thing that we look to deliver is an incident response plan. To do an incident response plan, we're gathering information about the computing environment of the network. And from that, we're gleaning what sector are they in, what are their compliance requirements, and that cyber law attorney is able, early on in the engagement, to make recommendations on prevention. So the client gets a trusted suite of capability that then they can use for other advisory. And we do this through partnerships. When I say that, I mean we have a small core, but we refer to incident response and data privacy attorneys that is part of our network build. We're not delivering it all ourselves. We're delivering it through our partners.
There was
Should we see? Good.
In the chat as well. Sorry, Michael, I know from Canada, I know you had a question about the privilege and the jurisdiction as well.
Yeah. Let me see.
Okay. I mean, I can ask it.
Yeah. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, so thanks. I thought it was a really interesting idea that calls to a legal firm's call center could actually be covered by privilege. So I was wondering if that is there were three questions I have really. Is that privilege extend even if the caller is a cold call without actually being engaged and not actually speaking to a real lawyer in the first instance? And secondly, does that apply if the call center's in another jurisdiction? And finally, considering we have a lot of these AI chats, can privilege be extended to an AI chat now rather than actually on a call?
Good, really good questions, Michael. So definitely, there are jurisdictional quirks or details in the and that's why we are migrating very cautiously and finding the right partners and make sure we're compliant with other jurisdictions. In the U.S., a prospective client counsel still has a duty to protect that confidence. So even before an attorney-client relationship is established, that communication is still privileged. We add some additional protections there because we sell through channel. We don't sell direct. So we're not getting direct. Typically, we're not getting those kind of inquiries directly to us. If it's sales call related, it's typically not a privacy matter anyway, but they're handling that through a sales agent. It's once they are a qualified lead, they're starting to fill out information that, that's when there may be sensitive information at that point. And that's when they would be calling into the call center to as part of the intake and onboarding. I think you had another question, AI. Yeah. I don't believe there's any that's definitely going to be jurisdiction dependent. I did see, for example, in the U.S., my jurisdiction, there's been some back and forth. It's related questions, not answered directly. It's more of that this is showing you how fluid and changing it is. But whether AI generated content, creative content from AI can be copyrighted. And I've seen some back and forth on that. The first one was no, and now it's sort of been tempered a little bit that it's possible. So I think that remains to be seen. But I would say that from a data privacy standpoint and privilege, as attorney, I would definitely be more cautious and treat it as privileged. And how you use what kind of AI systems. So you may or may not know to the group that you can have unconnected to the internet AI systems so that it's not going out. Then that would be important, so that it's in a closed loop network, so at least it's contained, and the information that's come in and the response is contained within. In a GDPR sense, right? A data controller, data processor, those are real concerns when you're starting to incorporate AI.
Thank you.
Edward asked, should we be embracing AI or hire someone to look at it? I mean, like anything, at least in the legal practice, whether you have a competency. If the question is more exploring and the legal and technical curiosity, no harm there. But when you start to, like I just answered, when you start to integrate AI and it's happening everywhere, into policies. A lot of call centers now we all know, are using AI systems. If you're going to do that, how does that privacy information and the right to delete, right, under GDPR and all those kind of issues, that I think requires expertise. So does that mean you have it in-house, or do you need to outsource and retain it? You have to answer that question, but generally speaking, that's got to be done with someone with some expertise.
Thank you for your comments, Doug.
Yep, sure, Edward. Other questions? I'm curious about AI, particularly in Europe and GDPR. Anybody? And I know there's an AI Act, right? Any predictions on where AI is? How regulated will AI be in Europe compared to the U.S.? Because the U.S. is starting to take a hands-off approach. We'll see. Anybody tracking that or aware?
I'm sort of tracking it a bit. Well, I am tracking it, but I can't give you any reply on where it's going at the moment. I think most of the European countries now are just looking at what it entails and what will it do for with the legislation in the jurisdiction. But I think a lot of authorities are also looking at where is it going, because it's going so fast that even if the act is here now, the changes are done in a few months anyway. So in my opinion, but that somebody else from Europe could probably continue my reflection. But I find everyone sitting not really knowing where to go.
I only heard a couple of days ago in the news that the European Union for the future wants to give more emphasis to these innovations and development of AI, because I think when this China version of AI, I don't remember the name, it was like big shock in America about it. So now it's a fresh news. Maybe last week I heard about it, that we need more innovations and more development regarding AI and technologies.
Does anybody know of or heard of, and I'm going to make a comment to it, but has anybody heard of Amazon One? Christina, you have? So for the group, and I just stumbled upon it at a food store the past weekend. It's been around now for, I think, over a year and a half, or it's been rolling out for about a year and a half. So Amazon One has a pay with your palm technology. Instead of tapping your card, there's a scanner, and you put your hand on the scanner. Now, think about that for a second. So that's taking your biometric, like your fingerprint, or it's your whole palm, and you obviously have to enroll that and then connect it to your bank. But you're having Amazon have biometric data, right, about you. Currently, there's skimming at gas stations, right, where there's a device that pretty low tech these days, but a device there that can steal when you slide in your credit card, can steal on the old magnetic strip, could steal it. Imagine lifting palm prints and making a glove so that you could steal someone's biometric in order to access their payment system. But to me, I'm seeing some questions I'll get to in a second. I'm seeing a big opportunity and a big need for, and Web3 can enable this, of owning data ownership rights, so that yeah, if you give, what's to stop Amazon? How are they going to manage your biometric data? And can you ever recover that? Right? Even if you delete your account, how do you get back to your biometric data, your palm print? Iris scans the same way, facial recognition. We at a point where claiming ownership of data is probably of your identity data is probably going to be a real thing that presents some interesting challenges under different laws, because it's more of a property right as opposed to a privacy interest. But a property right is more enforceable rather than, hey, you're violating GDPR or California's Privacy Act, stop it or delete the data. Instead, the argument is, that's mine. I own that. You're infringing on my rights. So I think that's, I don't want to get off track on that, but I think that's interesting approach. All right, there's another question here. Yes, Adrian, yes, it's a payment system using your palm. I saw it, I was at the checkout and I saw Palm and Amazon. I'm like, what? So I researched it, and it's there's others out there with similar technologies. Miguel says there's a book that he recommends called Life 3.0 by Max Tegmark. Stephanie, I'm sorry, did you ask what you wanted to ask or mention?
No, I was just going to jump in when you were asking about sort of the EU perspective and other laws more widely. So we're based in the UK, so we've worked obviously with the EU GDPR in the UK legislation for some time, and yeah, we're always around if people want to chat about what's going on in these jurisdictions. But I agree completely with Christina that although there's the EU AI legislation, and we appear to be taking a sort of more lax approach to it in the UK at the minute, they're taking the perspective that there's already data protection legislation and that's enough, and wrapping some regulatory guidance around it, but at the minute not moving to sort of full legislative approach. But that may have to change. So we'll see. But yeah, always happy to chat.
There's the data piece, the data privacy piece, and this is related to that. But there's the Federal Trade Commission in the U.S. is looking for notifications of how the AI uses data for its own training. So training disclosures, which in fact the New York Times is suing OpenAI. Because under violation, they're claiming violations of copyright because it's scraping data on copyrighted content to train the ChatGPT. So fascinating stuff. But I think it's whether you're an expert in it or a part of your practice, I think there are societal aspects to this, right? That we've all got to be as this digital transformation continues, because there's real privacy, civil liberties, interests, and so on. And was it Alan? I forget who, Stephen asked the question, I think spot on, that more and more of these, so because we have the societal imbalance being caused by technology advances, more and more of the questions being posed are going to be directed at attorneys. That's kind of our role, right, is to help rebalance inequities. So it's coming our way. It already has started. All right. Any other comments? Or Michael says, yeah, good one. I don't know that they're right. Yeah, I can't even answer that. All right. Anyone else? All right. Well, appreciate everyone's time. Interesting topic. Let's meet each other at some events and talk some more. And Oliver, I think, would love to continue these kind of conversations around technology, innovation, and changes, and some of the issues that are presented. So
Yeah,
appreciate everyone's
absolutely.
time. Good seeing everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.